हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। दिस इज सीए राखी अग्रवाल। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है इंडियन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 28, दैट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट इन एसोसिएट एंड जॉइंट वेंचर पार्ट 3। इन टुडेस डिस्कशन वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस अबाउट द exemption from applying equity method. Previously we had discussed in part 1 and part 2 we had discussed about the explanation related to the significant influence, what was the significant influence, along with various examples, illustrations, and we had also discussed about the application of equity method, how we will apply, in what case we will apply the equity method. But today's discussion is related to exemption from applying equity method. So let's start our topic. Exemption from applying the equity method, para 17 of Index 28. What it says, para 17 of Index 28 has 4 conditions. In order to avail the exemption, an entity needs to fulfill these 4 conditions in order to avail the exemption of para 17 of Index 28. What was the exemption? An entity need not apply the equity method to its investment in associate or joint venture if the entity is a parent that is exempt from preparing consolidated financial statement by scope of exception in Index 110, or if all the following conditions apply. As what was the condition? There was a 4 conditions as per para 17 of Index 28. First condition is the entity is a wholly owned subsidiary or is partly owned subsidiary of another entity, and its other owner, including those not otherwise entitled to vote, have been informed about and do not object to the entity not applying the equity method. First condition is the entity is a wholly owned subsidiary or partly owned subsidiary of any other organization, and that entity is having subsidiary or associate also. The other owners of that entity are not objecting him, he is not preparing CFS. He will get the exemption. Another condition, the entity debts or equity instruments are not traded in public market. The equities or debt instruments are not traded in public market. The entity did not file nor in the process of filing its financial statement with the Security Commission or other regulatory organization for the purpose of issuing any class of instruments in a public market. Not in the process of listing, not a listed company. And the ultimate or the any intermediate parent of the entity produce financial statement available for public use to comply with Index in which subsidiaries are consolidated or are measured at fair value through profit or loss account in accordance with Index 110. So what it says, in order to avail the exemption as per para 17 of Index 28, the entity which is the subsidiary of any of the organization and the other owner of that organization do not object if that entity is not preparing CF. Another condition, not traded in public market, not listed company, not in the process of listing, and the ultimate or immediate parent company of that organization is preparing CFS for public use. If these 4 conditions met, then this entity will get an exemption from applying equity method. We are explaining this with the help of 2 examples. First example is, if the A Limited is the parent company and B Limited is a subsidiary of A Limited. A Limited is having a control over B Limited. C Limited is the subsidiary of B Limited and D Limited is an associate of B Limited. A Limited controls B Limited, B Limited controls C Limited, and B Limited is having a significant influence on D Limited. As per para 17 of Index 28, it says that B Limited will get the exemption if B Limited fulfill the condition of para 4A of Index 110, the same condition para 17 of 28. He will automatically get exemption from applying equity method. In this case, who will prepare CFS? A Limited, who is the parent company of B Limited, he will consolidate the balance sheet of B Limited also, C Limited also, and D Limited also. So note, B Limited get a choice to consolidate C Limited or not. Not mandate for B Limited to prepare CFS. If B Limited meets all the 4 conditions of para 4A of Index 110 and the same, he will get a choice under Index 28 by virtue of para 17A to D. B Limited get a choice to consolidate D Limited or not. Automatically get an exemption, and he has a choice either to apply equity method or he has a choice to prepare his financials as per Index 109, that is fair value through profit and loss. So this was the first example. In second case, B Limited is only having an associate. There is no subsidiary. So B Limited is not required to check para 4A of Index 110. So So there is no possibility of B Limited to check para 4A of Ind AS 110. In that case, B Limited needs to check para 17 of Ind AS 28. The four conditions met of para 17, he has a choice not to prepare financials as per equity method, or he has a choice Ind AS 110, that is fair value through profit and loss. Who will consolidate in this case? A Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of B Limited also and C Limited. Exemption from applying the equity method, that is para 18 of Ind AS 28. What it says, when an investment in an associate or joint venture is held by or is held indirectly through an entity that is a venture capital organization or a mutual fund, unit trust and similar entities including investment linked insurance fund, the entity may elect to measure the investments at fair value through profit or loss in accordance with Ind AS 109. An entity shall make the election separately for each associate or joint venture at initial recognition of the associate or joint venture. There is a two scenario. That is, first scenario is when the A Limited is itself a mutual fund or unit trust or venture capital organization and he has a significant influence over B Limited. In that case, A Limited directly having a significant influence, his benefit is given to the organization who is a mutual fund, unit trust, venture capital or investment organization. So in this case, A Limited is a venture capital organization, so he has a choice as per para 18 of Ind AS 28 that for applying equity method as per Ind AS 28 or measure its investment in B Limited at fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. This was the first scenario, and the second scenario is when A Limited is having a control over B Limited and B Limited is the subsidiary of A Limited. Subsidiary is a venture capital organization or mutual fund or unit investment company. B Limited is having a significant influence on C Limited. In this case, what happened? Who will consolidate? Because A Limited will consolidate the balance sheet and B Limited is having a choice as per para 18 of Ind AS 28. Either he will consolidate by applying equity method or he has a choice to measure its investment at fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. Scenario 1, in which A Limited itself is a mutual fund, and in another scenario, subsidiary of A Limited is a mutual fund. In that case, B Limited will not prepare financials, will not consolidate by following equity method. A Limited will prepare the financials, make a consolidation of B Limited also and C Limited also. Exemption from applying the equity method, that is para 19 of Ind AS 28. What para 19 says? When an entity has an investment in an associate, a portion of which is held indirectly through a venture capital organization or a mutual fund or unit trust and similar entities including investment linked insurance fund, the entity may elect to measure that portion of investment at fair value through profit or loss in accordance with Ind AS 109, regardless of whether the venture capital organization has significant influence over the portion of the investment and shall apply equity method to any remaining portion of the investments that is not held through a venture capital organization. This para 19 says that suppose A Limited is having a control over B Limited and B Limited is a mutual fund or venture capital organization or unit trust and B Limited is having a significant influence on C Limited. In that case, what happened? A Limited directly hold on C Limited and having a significance, and A Limited through subsidiary B Limited is indirectly holding on C Limited through subsidiary, that is indirect investments in that portion as per para 19 of 28. Ind AS 28, what it says, when an entity has an investment in an associate, a portion of which is held indirectly through subsidiary, that is in this case B Limited is the subsidiary, so indirectly through a venture capital organization. In this case, B Limited is a venture capital organization or a mutual fund or unit trust and similar entities including investments linked insurance fund. The entity may elect to measure that portion of investments fair value through profit and loss in accordance with Ind AS 109 on that portion of C Limited which is directly held by A Limited, on which A Limited will apply equity method, which is mandatory. There is no exemption because A Limited is not a venture capital organization. So whatever A Limited holds directly on C Limited, for that portion he will apply equity method mandatory as per Ind AS 28. But through subsidiary, because in this case subsidiary is a venture capital organization and exemption is given to the B Limited on that portion which is indirectly held through subsidiary, which is B Limited and which is also a venture capital organization. For that portion he has a choice either to apply equity method or to apply Ind AS 109, that is fair value through profit and loss. In order order to check that 20% or more is there is a significant influence or not, suppose A Limited directly invest on C Limited, that is 15%. Through subsidiary they invest 10%. So we will calculate in order to check that entity is having a significant influence or not. All together we will consolidate, that is 10% plus 15%, 25%. Definition of significant influence met. But in order to apply equity method for accounting purpose on 15%, which is direct investment, we apply equity method, and for indirect investment through subsidiary, which is venture capital organization, that is on 10%, there is a choice either to apply equity method or fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. Now illustration 1. ABC Limited operates a pharmaceutical business and own a venture capital organization, that is subsidiary V, that invests in the construction industries. V business is monitored on the basis of the fair value of its investment ABC Limited, and V holds 20% shares each in the investee Z Limited. How shall ABC Limited account for its investment directly and indirectly through V in the investee Z Limited in its consolidated financial state? ABC Limited holds 100% stake of subsidiary V, that is venture capital organization, and subsidiary V holds 20% stake in Z Limited, which is having a construction business. ABC Limited directly holds 20% stake in Z Limited. So through subsidiary hold 20% and direct investment is 20%. So all total direct and indirect holding, that is 40% in order to check the significant influence. Para 19 of Ind AS 28 will get triggered. For direct holding they will apply equity method, and through subsidiary, because subsidiary is a venture capital organization, and as per para 19 of Ind AS 28 he has got an exemption not to apply equity method, or he has a choice either to apply equity method or fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. Now illustration 2. An entity P, that is the parent, has two wholly owned subsidiary, that is X Limited and Y Limited, each of which has an ownership interest in an associate entity Z. Subsidiary X Limited is a venture capital organization. Neither of the investments held in associate Z Limited by subsidiary X Limited and Y Limited is held for trading. Subsidiary X Limited and Y Limited account for their investment in associate Z Limited at fair value through profit and loss account in accordance with Ind AS 109 and using the equity method in accordance with Ind AS 28 respectively. How should P accounts for the investments in associate Z in the following scenario? Three scenarios are there, that is scenario 1, when both the investment in associate results in a significant influence on a standalone basis, that is subsidiary X Limited and Y Limited ownership interest in associate Z Limited is 25% and 20% respectively. In scenario 1, what it says means parent P Limited is a parent company. He has a two subsidiary 100% holding, that is X Limited and Y Limited. X Limited is a venture capital organization and Y Limited is a normal entity, and X Limited is having a significant influence on Z Limited. Z Limited is an associate of X Limited, that is X Limited is having significant influence by holding 25% stake in Z Limited, and Y Limited is having a significant influence by holding 20% stake in Z Limited. P Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of X Limited also, Y Limited also, and Z Limited also, because X Limited is a venture capital organization. For that portion he has a choice either to apply equity method or to apply fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. But for normal portion, for Y Limited, because it's a normal organization and he has having a significant influence, if Y Limited meets all the following conditions of para 17, that he is not a listed company and he is not in the process of listing, and his ultimate parent will consolidate the financial statement for public use, other subsidiaries or other entities do not object if Y Limited will not prepare CFS. If Y Limited fulfill all the following conditions, then parent P Limited will consolidate and Y Limited will got the exemptions as per para 17 of Ind AS 28. If they will not fulfill the condition, then equity method is mandatory to apply. Scenario 2, when neither of the investments in associate results in significant influence on a standalone basis but do provides the parent with significant influence on a combined basis. Subsidiary X Limited and Y Limited ownership interest in associate Z Limited is 10% each. In this case, what happened? Neither of the investment in associate results in significant influence on a standalone basis. That is, parent is a P Limited and he has two wholly owned subsidiaries, that is subsidiary X, which is a venture capital organization, and subsidiary Y. Subsidiary X, which is a venture capitalization, holds 10% stake in Z Limited and subsidiary Y holds 10% stake in Z Limited. 10% you say that they do not have a significant influence, but if the parent limited who will consolidate its balance sheet, because he is a wholly owned subsidiary, altogether he will check the definition of significant influence. In this case, 10% plus 10%, it becomes 20%. It meets the definition of significant influence. Then parent company, that is P Limited, will consolidate balance sheet of X Limited, Y Limited and Ind AS 110 for that portion which is held through venture capital. Choice either to apply equity method or fair value through profit and loss account. For normal entity, he will apply equity method mandatory. So in the present case, in accordance with para 19 of Ind AS 28, P Limited must follow equity method of accounting for its 10% interest held by Y Limited, even though Y Limited would not have significant influence on a standalone basis. Under the partial use of fair value exemption, P Limited may elect to measure that 10% interest held by X Limited at fair value through profit or loss. Scenario 3, when one of the investment in associate results in significant influence on a standalone basis and the other investment in associate does not result in significant influence on a standalone basis. P Limited is a parent company. He has a wholly owned subsidiary, that is X Limited and Y Limited. X Limited is a venture capital organization. Y Limited is a normal company. X Limited is having a significant influence on Z Limited by holding 30% stake in Z Limited, and Y Limited is having 10% stake in Z Limited. On a standalone basis, Y Limited does not have a significant influence on Z Limited, but on a combined basis, if we check, then 30% plus 10% become 40%, so they have a significant influence. P Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of X Limited and Y Limited by following Ind AS 110, and he will consolidate the balance sheet of Z Limited. For that portion, he will apply, which is held through venture capital organization. As per para 19 of Ind AS 28, he has a choice either to apply equity method or fair value through profit and loss account. But for the balance portion, for 10%, they do not have a significant influence on standalone basis, but altogether it fulfills the definition of significant influence. In that case, parent company will consolidate the Z Limited, which is held through Y Limited, that is 10%, applying equity method. So in the present case, in accordance with para 19 of Ind AS 28, P Limited may follow equity method of accounting for its 10% interest held by Y Limited, even though Y Limited would not have significant influence on a standalone basis. Under the partial use of fair value exemption, P Limited may elect to measure 30% interest held by X Limited at fair value through profit and loss. An entity X holds 100% investment in subsidiary A, which in turn holds a 20% investment in associate Z. In addition, entity X also holds a 25% investment in associate B and 50% investment in joint venture C, each of which holds a 10% investment in associate Z. What shall be the entity X shares in entity Z? So यहाँ पे क्या है, X Limited holds 100% stake in A Limited, 25% stake in B Limited and 50% stake in C Limited. A Limited is the subsidiary of X Limited. B Limited is an associate of X Limited by having 25%, and C Limited become a joint venture. So in this case, how X Limited will consolidate Z Limited? As per the definition of significant influence, X Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of A Limited because it's a subsidiary of X Limited by following Ind AS 110. X Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of B Limited by following Ind AS 28. He is having 25% stake on B Limited and B Limited is associate of X Limited. For C Limited, X Limited is holding 50% in the form of joint venture. So he will apply Ind AS 111 for that accounting for consolidation purpose. Subsidiary, associate and joint venture of X Limited will also invested in Z Limited some of the portions. So whatever the portions held through subsidiary, for that portion only X Limited will consolidate Z Limited investments. So X Limited will consolidate A Limited balance sheet, B Limited balance sheet, C Limited and Z Limited, which is held through subsidiary only, not through associate, not through joint venture. As per the definition of significant influence, what it says that Ind AS 28 inter alia states that a group share in an associate or a joint venture is the aggregate of the holding in the associate or joint venture by the parent and its subsidiary. The holding of the group, other associates or joint ventures are ignored for the purpose. Means whatever the holding is there through associate or joint venture, it should be ignored for consolidation. Therefore, in its consolidated financial statement, entity X Limited accounts for a 20% investment in associate Z Limited under the equity method because the investment in associate Z Limited held by associate B Limited and joint venture C Limited should not be taken into account, and entity X fully consolidate the asset of its subsidiaries A Limited, which includes a 20% stake in associate Z Limited. So entity X should consolidate such 20% holding in entity Z under an equity method. So in this case, only that holding the X Limited will consolidate that portion of Z Limited which is held through subsidiary only. For the purpose of consolidation, the investment in Z Limited held by associate B and joint venture C should not be taken into account. Now ABC Limited is a venture capital organization and fulfill the definition of investment entity under Ind AS 110. Consolidated financial statement. How should ABC Limited account for its investment in AB Limited and PQ Limited in its financial statement under Ind AS 110 and Ind AS 28? Now in this case, what happened? ABC Limited is an investment entity and having a venture capital organization. So ABC Limited, that is the parent company, is a venture capital organization. He has a subsidiary, that is AB Limited. AB Limited is a non-investment entity and PQ Limited is also a non-investment entity, or it's an associate of ABC Limited. For subsidiary, they apply Ind AS 110 if they fulfill the definition of investment entity as per Ind AS 110. In case if the ABC Limited is an investment entity, yeah, it's an investment entity, then we have to check that its subsidiary is also an investment entity, and we have to check that whether AB Limited, which is the subsidiary of ABC Limited, is having a same line of business of ABC Limited. Whatever the ABC Limited do, the same business is done by AB Limited also. If they fulfill all the conditions, they meet the definition of investment entity as per Ind AS 110. If the subsidiary and parent company both are the investment entity and they have a same line of business, they mandatory required to apply Ind AS 109 following all the investment they did as per Ind AS 109 by following fair value through profit and loss account. But in this case, what happened? The subsidiary is not an investment company. As per Ind AS 110, ABC Limited will consolidate if they do not do the similar business for Ind AS 110, which is mandatory. But if they fulfill the definition of an investment entity, then there is no requirement to make a consolidation. They will follow all their investments as per Ind AS 109, that is fair value through profit and loss. For the portion which is held through associate, they will check the condition of Ind AS 28, that is para 18 will get triggered because holding company is a venture capital organization and they got an exemption either to apply equity method or fair value through profit and loss account. But if the subsidiary is an investment company, he has got an exemption not to consolidate balance sheet, then in that case, even they fulfill the condition of para 18, ABC Limited as per the definition of investment entity, they will prepare its balance sheet as per Ind AS 109, that is fair value through profit and loss. Illustration 4, that is exemption from applying equity method. Para 19, in MNO Limited holds 15% of the voting power of DEF Limited. PQR Mutual Fund, which is the subsidiary of MNO Limited, also holds 10% voting power of DEF Limited. Hence, MNO Limited holds total 25% voting power of DEF Limited. That is 15% held by own and 10% held by its subsidiary, and accordingly has significant influence over DEF Limited. How should MNO Limited account for investments in DEF Limited in its consolidated financial statement? MNO directly holds on DEF Limited 15% stake, and through its subsidiary, which is PQR Limited, which is also a venture capital organization, is a mutual fund, 10% stake. In order to check the consolidation, PQR is exempt from applying equity method. He has a choice either to apply equity or fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. MNO Limited will consolidate the balance sheet of PQR Limited as per Ind AS 110, because direct holding is 15% and indirect holding through subsidiary is 10%. In order to check significant influence, we will check the combined effect, that is 15 plus 10, it becomes 25. 25%. So definition of significant influence meets. Para 19 of Ind AS 28 get triggered. For direct holding, they will apply equity method, that is mandatory. Indirect holding through subsidiary, which is mutual fund, 10%. They have a choice either to apply equity method or to apply fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. 15% interest, which is held directly by MN, should be measured as per equity method of accounting. However, with respect to the 10% interest which is held through a mutual fund, MNO Limited can avail the exemption from applying the equity method to that 10% interest and instead measure the investment at fair value through profit or loss. To summarize, the total interest of 25% in DEF Limited should be measured at follow. For 15% interest held directly by MNO Limited, measured as per equity method of accounting, which is direct holding, and for 10% interest held indirectly through mutual fund, they have a choice either to measure at equity method of accounting or fair value through profit and loss account as per Ind AS 109. Example, a mutual fund has invested in an equity share capital of certain companies in excess of 20% of the total equity share of those entities. Hence, those investees are presumed to be an associate of the mutual fund. In this case, the mutual fund can decide not to apply equity method to account for those investments and instead measure them at fair value through profit and loss as per Ind AS 109. Situation 5, that is cumulative preference shares issued by associate or joint venture. KL Limited has invested in 50% voting power of joint venture in MN Limited. MN Limited has also issued 10% cumulative preference shares to other investors worth rupees 10 lakh. During the year, MN Limited earned profits of rupees 4 lakh. Also, MN Limited has not declared any dividend on the preference shares for the current year. Calculate KL Limited shares in the net profits of MN Limited for the year. Solution: if an associate or joint venture has outstanding cumulative preference shares that are held by the parties other than the entities and are classified as equity, the equity should compute its shares of profits or loss after adjusting for dividend on such shares whether or not the dividend have been declared. In case of cumulative preference share, first of all, either the entity will declare dividend or not, we have to set aside in the form of dividend. In case of cumulative preference shares, some portion profits to the preference shareholder who are cumulative, so they can accumulate that in the form of dividend. In this case, KL Limited shares in net profits of MN Limited would be as follows. Because profit for the year is 4 lakhs and after paying dividend 10% on investment preference shares, that is 10 lakhs, 10% that is 1 lakh. 4 lakhs minus 1 lakh, it becomes 3 lakhs. Net profit attributable to the holders of equity share, that is 3 lakhs. KL Limited gets its share, that is 50% of net profits of MN Limited, that is out of 3 lakhs, he will get 1,50,000. Now, long-term interest in associate or joint venture apart from equity instrument. If any entity is having a long-term interest in associate or joint venture other than equity, this is case of appendix of Ind AS 28. What appendix of Ind AS 28 says? If an entity is having any other interest other than equity in any of these associate or joint venture in the form of long-term interest, like in the form of preference shares, in the form of loans which is not repayable in future, then that kind of interest is a long-term interest. Unsecured loan which is not repayable in future are considered for this purpose. So some of the situations are there in order to understand the appendix in a better way. That is situation 1. A Limited is having a significant influence on B Limited and B Limited is a profit making company and A Limited is holding only equities of B Limited, not any other instruments. Appendix of Ind AS 28 is not applicable in case if B Limited, that is the associate company, is a profit making company and the holding company is holding only the equity of associate. So appendix is not applicable. In second situation, A Limited having a significant influence on B Limited and B Limited is a loss making company and A Limited is holding only the equity of B Limited on which he has having a significant influence. So in this case also, A Limited is holding only the equity, B Limited is a loss making company, appendix is not applicable. In situation 3, 3, A Limited is having a significant influence on B Limited, and B Limited is a profit making company, and A Limited is holding an equity and also long term interest in the form of preference shares in the form of loans. So A Limited has given some loans which is not repayable and also invested in some preference shares of B Limited. So and B Limited is a profit making company. In this case, though A Limited is giving some loans to B Limited and having a long term interest, but B Limited is a profit making company. For profit making company, appendix is not applicable. In situation 4, A Limited is having a significant influence on B, and B Limited is a loss making company, and A Limited is holding the equity share capital and also long term interest in the form of preference shares and loans. So in this case, appendix is applicable as per Ind AS 28 get triggered, because B Limited is a loss making company and also A Limited is having a long term interest on B Limited in the form of preference shares, in the form of loans. In this case, in situation 4, appendix is applicable. So when appendix will get triggered, when significant influence is there and when B Limited is a loss making company and A Limited is having a long term interest on B Limited in the form of preference shares or in the form of loan. So long term interest in associate or joint venture apart from equity, that is appendix, what it says: an entity might hold financial instruments in an associate or joint venture other than the investments accounted for using the equity method. These includes long term interest that in substance form part of the entity's net investments in the associates or joint venture. These long term interests we apply Ind AS 109. For these long term interests we will apply Ind AS 109. For example, an item for which settlement is neither planned nor likely to occur in the foreseeable future is in substance an extension of the entity's investments in that associate or joint venture. Such items includes preference share capital or long term receivables or loans, but it does not include trade receivable because there is a credit period, trade payable, and any loans receivable for which adequate collateral security has been given, that is a secured loan for which is not considered as long term interest in associate or joint venture. Illustration 6, loss making associate and long term interest. So an entity has following equity share, that is 25% of equity share to which equity method of accounting is applied. Preference share, that is non-cumulative preference shares that form part of net investments in the associate. Such preference shares are measured at fair value as per Ind AS 109. And long-term interest is also long-term loans. The loan carrying interest of 10% per annum. The interest income is received at the end of each year. The long-term loan is accounted as per amortized cost as per Ind AS 109. The loan also form part of net investment in the associate. At the start of the year, the carrying value of each of the above interest is as follows. Equity share is rupees 10 lakhs, preference share is rupees 5 lakhs, and long-term loan is rupees 3 lakhs. Following table summarize the change in the fair value of preference shares as per Ind AS 109, impairment loss on long-term loan as per Ind AS 109, and entity shares in profit or loss of the associate for the year 1 to 5. So how they will account for the period 1 to 5 years. Year 1, there is an increase or decrease in the fair value of preference shares as per Ind AS 109, that is there is a decrease in the fair value by 50,000. Impairment loss is there, that is 50,000, and entity share in profit or loss of associate is rupees. There is a loss in equity, that is 16 lakh. Now in year 2, there is a decrease in the fair value of preference shares as per Ind AS 109 by 50,000. There is no impairment loss in year 2, and there is a equity loss is 2 lakh. There is an entity share in profit or loss of associate is 2 lakh. Now year 3, there is a increase in the preference share, fair value of preference shares as per Ind AS 109 is by 1 lakh. There is a reversal of impairment loss by 50,000. In year 3, entity does not have any profits. In year 4, decrease in the fair value of preference share by 50,000. There is no impairment loss, neither a reversal. Entity shares in the profit or loss of associate is 10 lakhs. There is a profit in year 4 by 10 lakhs. And in year 5, there is a increase in the fair value of preference shares by 30,000. There is no impairment loss, no reversal, and entity share in the profit or loss of the associate is 10 lakh. Throughout the year 1 to 5, there has been no objective evidences of impairment in the net investments in the associate. The entity does not have any legal or constructive obligation to share the losses of the associates beyond its interest in the associate. Based on the above, determine the closing balance of each of the above interest at the end of the year. In year 1, there is an opening balance at the start of the year, that is equity share is 10 lakh, preference share is 5 lakhs, and long term loan is 3 lakhs. Total becomes 18 lakhs. In year 1, as per the question, there is a decrease in the fair value of preference share by 50,000 and there is an impairment loss of 50,000 and there is a loss in equity 16 lakhs in year 1. So how they will account for? Preference share is decreased by 50,000 because 5 lakh is the opening balance and there is a decrease in fair value by 50,000, so it becomes 4,50,000 after giving the effect of decrease in fair value as per Ind AS 109. And there is an impairment loss also on loans, that is 50,000, so it will be adjusted with loans. Opening balance of loans is 3 lakhs and after adjustment 3,000 it becomes 2,50,000. Balance after applying Ind AS 109 becomes equity share is 10 lakhs, preference share is 5 lakh minus 50,000, so it becomes 4,50,000 and long term loan becomes 3 lakh minus 50,000, so it becomes 2,50,000. Now share of loss in associate. One, there is a 16 lakh losses. After adjusting Ind AS 109 affects the balance of losses is adjusted. In case of profits, firstly we will repay the loans, then we will repay the preference share and the leftover is given to the equity shareholder. But in case of loss, firstly adjusted with the equity shareholders, then take the help of preference shares and then if any amount left to adjust, we will adjust with the loan. First year there is a loss of 16 lakhs but the balance available in equity is 10 lakhs. So first 10 lakhs is adjusted with equity. Left balance out of 16 lakhs is left. We will adjust 4,50,000 up to the balance available in preference share. Remaining 1,50,000 is adjusted loans. That closing balance at the end of year 1, equity become nil, preference share become nil. Now long term loan 1 lakh. So total becomes nil plus 1 lakh, it becomes 1 lakh. Now in second year what happens? Closing balance becomes the opening balance at the opening of year 2. Equity share becomes nil, preference share becomes nil and long term loan is 1 lakh. In year 2 there is a increase in fair value of preference share, that is 50,000. There is a impairment loss nil, equity share in profit or loss of associate, that is 2 lakh. In preference share there is no opening balance. So how you will adjust? You will reverse the balance given in year 1 to the equity shareholder in order to adjust the loss. Up to the extent you will reverse, that is 50,000. The balance in loan is 1 lakh. The loss of in associate becomes 2 lakhs. So total adjustment in year 2 is 2,50,000. Only 1 lakh is available in long term loan. So you can adjust in year 2 up to the extent of 1 lakh. So 50,000 which you had reversed in year 1, you will adjust that 50,000 of equity loss which is carry forward because you had reversed the preference share. So 50,000 is left in year 1 and 2 lakh is year 2 losses. Out of 2,50,000 you had adjusted up to the extent the balance available in loan, that is 1 lakh. Unadjusted balance we left out, that is 1,50,000 which is to be carry forward in next year. So the closing balance at the end of year 2 becomes equity nil, preference nil and long term loans is also nil. Now year 3 opening balance at the start of the year, equity is nil, preference nil, long term loan nil. There is a increase in the fair value by 1 lakh, impairment loss reversal by 50,000. So total balance available is 1,50,000. But we have to adjust the carry forward losses of year 2 which is unrecognized in year 1,50,000. So balance after applying Ind AS 109 becomes equity nil, preference becomes 1 lakh and long term becomes loan becomes 50,000. Now share of loss which is unrecognized in year 2, that is the carry forward losses, is to be adjusted. So 1,50,000 is unrecognized, so we will adjust that. 1 lakh is adjusted with the preference share and balancing 50,000 is adjusted with the long term loans. Now closing balance at the end of year 3 becomes equity nil, preference nil, long term loan nil, total becomes nil. Fourth year opening balance at the start of the year, equity becomes nil, preference becomes nil, long term loan nil, total nil. Increase in fair value of preference share by 50,000 and there is a equity profit 10 lakh. So balance after applying Ind AS 109, equity nil, preference share becomes 50,000 and long term loans becomes nil and total becomes 50,000. There is a increase in profit of associate is 10 lakh. Firstly we will adjust that profit with loans. Then the remaining balance we will adjust with preference share and the left out amount is to be given to the equity shareholder. In year 1 in case of loan there is adjustment of 1,50,000. In year 2 there is an adjustment of 1 lakh, so it becomes 2,50,000 and year 3 50,000. So total 3 lakh, the balance available in loans is exhausted. The profit of 10 lakhs, 3 lakhs is given, 7 lakhs left. We will adjust with the preference shares. How much adjustment is required in case of preference shares? That is in year 1 4,50,000. In year 2 we had reversed 50,000. In year 3 it becomes 1 lakh. So total becomes 5 lakh. Total adjustment becomes 5 lakh. We will give to the preference shares the remaining balance. Out of 10 lakh we are repay the loan, 3 lakhs will pay to the preference shareholders, that is 5 lakh. The remaining balance is given to the equity shareholder, that is 2 lakh is to be given to the equity shareholder. Now the closing balance at the end of year 4 becomes, in case of equity, 2 lakhs. In case of preference shares, 50,000 there is an increase as per Ind AS 109 and become 5 lakh 50,000, and long term loan becomes 3 lakh. These closing balance become the opening balance in year 5, that is equity 2 lakhs, preference share 5 lakh 50,000 and long term loan becomes 3 lakh. So total becomes 10 lakh 50,000. In year 5 there is increase in fair value by 30,000. There is no impairment loss, no reversal, and there is a profit related to associate is 10 lakh. Now balance after applying Ind AS 109 becomes 2 lakh in case of equity. In case of preference share it becomes 5 lakh 80,000, and in case of loans it becomes 3 lakh. There is a increase in profit of associate in year 5 by 10 lakhs. So all the profits are given to the equity shareholder, because now there is no left out balance is available to adjust. Whatever the profit is available is to be given to the equity shareholder. Carrying amount at the end of year 5 becomes equity 2 plus 10, it becomes 12 lakhs. Preference share becomes 5 lakh 80,000 and long term loan becomes 3 lakhs. So total becomes 20 lakh 80,000. The interest accrual on long term loan would be done in each year at 10% per annum. This will be done without taking into account any adjustment done in the carrying value of long term loan as per Ind AS 28. Hence the entity will accrue interest 3 lakh ka 10%, that is 30,000 in each year. Thanking you for watching my video. If you like, please share, subscribe.